What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and in this video I want to talk about my latest gaming addiction, and this is something people have been trying to get me to play for a while. And I played it, and I played it a couple years ago, and honestly I sucked, and I still suck, and I took some time off in between and all that, but I've been watching one of my favorite streamers to just chill and lurk in, and that's Arvius. He is incredibly good at Battle Brothers. And so he went back to it recently, started playing it, did a max difficulty cultist run, took several tries to get it off the ground, and through 4 crises. Very awesome stuff. But while I was watching that, I was thinking to myself, like, I really want to play this. And I said, no, I want to put the time in, I just suck. But like, I'm watching him play it, you know, and I'm picking up just tips through osmosis, learning how to play and stuff. And so I finally went back to it, and honestly I have had such a blast with the game. I played on expert for my actually pretty much every run I'm doing on expert now, but I don't do Iron Man because again I'm trash, but it's fun. And so I want to talk about why I really enjoy this game. And if you're a fan of turn-based strategies, unforgiving roguelike elements and stuff like that, check out Battle Brothers. The things I do like about Battle Brothers are the origins. So this is how you start the game. You can just do some vanilla, you know, you get a few dudes, 2 are melee, 1's range, and you just start either in the middle of the map or the south. Of course, this is assuming you have all the DLCs, and I suggest you get them. If you play the game for any amount of time and you even enjoy it, get the DLCs. They are all worth it. Some of them are free, some of them aren't, so you can snipe them on a sale. But honestly, this game is worth every penny if you're a fan of this type of genre. And so the origins are how you start the game. You can do the first couple normal ones, and that's fine for your first couple playthroughs. But once you understand the game a bit and you want to spice it up, there are some really fun origins out there. They're all cool for different reasons. They present different challenges, give you different bonuses and stuff. The hardest being probably Cultist, just because the roster management and the game knowledge you need is crazy. So you have to be pretty much a master of the game, I would say, to get the most out of it. You can play it regardless, but I think it really requires a lot of understanding. Then there are ones that are rated like 3 skulls, so they're supposed to be the hardest, like Gladiators and Lone Wolf. Gladiators is what I was playing on for expert, and it is the most fun start because you get 3 god tier brothers to, you know, run over stuff with, and you start at the arena, and you can just, you know, grind out the arena for a few days or as long as you want, honestly. But the gladiators are very powerful, probably the easiest start in the game because of how strong they are and what you get. Lone Wolf is, you start with like 1 really strong hedge knight, but it's not nearly as strong of a start as gladiators, in my opinion. So there are a lot of interesting starts out there. The range ones feel a bit, you know, rougher. And I suggest, you know, trying everything at some point. I don't really care what difficulty you play on. I'm not going to say, yeah, you have to play on expert to enjoy the game. No, play on whatever the hell you want. Play for, you know, 1,000 hours on beginner. Play for 1,000 hours on expert. Who cares? Just do what you want. Have fun. You know, it's a game. That's why you're supposed to be doing or playing it, because it's fun. But outside of the origins, because I talked a lot about that already, the normal gameplay loop is just really enjoyable. Go to towns, get contracts, get dudes, you know, recruit them, gear up, get food and all that, and then venture off to either complete the contract or wander the wilderness to find some camps where the enemies like to, you know, set up shop and send out patrols, and you can find cool items that are randomly generated, you know, named, or I should say famed items you can find there. And the whole loop is just enjoyable. Go fight stuff, go resupply, go fight stuff. The fights are pretty quick, especially in the early stages, because the numbers are just low and you don't have a lot of the abilities that you have to think about and drag them out yet. So it's just, you know, get good positioning, hit attack, fight ends. People might die on your side, and it's always fun. There's always a better brother out there to recruit, and there are more contracts and stuff, so it's never game over if you lose a couple guys. It sucks, you feel the pain of loss, but still good, still enjoyable. The next thing that drew me to the game was the difficulty. This game is very hard and it's unforgiving. One thing I don't like about it, though, is in terms of this difficulty, a lot of it is just understanding. The game doesn't give you the information up front. You don't know what the town events do for a while unless you go, you know, study them. And you don't know what backgrounds are good to hire guys at. And sometimes you might, you know, pay a lot of money for Hedge Knight, you know, if you get that far in the game, and then he rolls like crap, and if you're not safe scumming, that can feel pretty bad. But, you know, besides all of that stuff, it's still worth it, it's still worth learning, and it is hard, but like once you get past that initial, you know, hit in the face, and you start overcoming the challenges and the difficulty, it's really fun. There are early fights that are hard, there are late game fights that are hard, like the crises or legendary locations. There's always something to go for. There's always a goal in the game. Next thing I like is that it's a roguelike sandbox for most intents and purposes. There's no meta progression that carries over between save files and runs. Every time you start up, it generates a new map seed, and you can, you know, decide all the parameters of that in terms of the difficulty, and if you don't like it, you just re-roll it, and it's okay. So all of that is really fun, and then you have the sandbox elements, so you get to run around, do camps, contracts, all that changes, and there's a lot of cool stuff, like I was saying before, the famed items, the really hard fights are out there in the wilderness, and you don't even have to do that. You can just run around and do contracts for 400 days. You can do that, but if you want to get the most out of it, I think you should do a balance of both. Do the contracts, do the crises, run around in the wilderness, see all the cool fights, the hard camps, and I think you'd enjoy that. The final thing I want to talk about that I do like in the game is what initially prompted me to make this video. I really like how this game handles AI and the enemies. All the enemies are cool, you know, in different ways. They look fun, or they are fun, they look cool and stuff like that. Their tactics do change depending on what you're up against. You know, some like to try and flank you, some like to push through your front line, knock around your tanks, throw them and stuff like that, and then charge your back line that way. Some of them like to camp and just shoot you with arrows. I'm looking at you, goblins, and most of them are really fun and interactive. And what I think this game does perfectly is the morale system. So not just for your guys, but for the majority of enemies that are not undead, you have to deal with their morale. If they're doing well, they get confident and they get stronger, and you start losing morale and you get weaker. And then it goes vice versa. But what's crazy about this game is, in terms of that morale system, it is the only game that I have played that I can think of that handles this so well. So you have the morale system. The enemy has a sense of self-preservation. Almost every other game that I have played that's, you know, turn-based tactics RPG, even like the action RPGs and stuff like that, the enemies just fight to the death. They have no semblance of self-preservation. You're mostly reacting to what they do the whole time, and so it just feels like the game's playing itself, and then you do whatever. This, you know, this goes even to like Souls games and stuff. But this game, the enemy, even though it doesn't have to, you know, it'll just generate new ones, new camps, whatever. It tries to survive, and I respect that so much, because, you know, you get momentum, you run over the enemy. Yeah, it's more XP and loot and stuff like that, and it becomes easier if you start killing them, but it's nice to see that, you know, it's nice to see a game that wants to protect its monsters, and, you know, you play around that, and it plays around that. So it's really cool and fun and interactive, in my opinion, because that's the thing I probably enjoy most. And then I'll talk about what I dislike of the game, or about the game. There's only a couple things. The first is that some things aren't perfectly balanced. You know, the game is pretty well balanced as a whole. Even the stuff that feels like BS, once you understand how the game works and how to build characters and stuff, and what tactics to use, because you can usually recruit more than 12 guys unless you're gladiators or something. So it's good to have more, because you can only field 12 of them, so it's good to have more of them on deck to address certain things. Certain characters are better against monsters, or like certain builds. Certain weapons are better against like orcs, for example. And so if you're maximizing your inventory space and keeping backups of gear, like armor, if your other armor gets punched through too quickly and you have to repair it, or if you just, you know, need different armor for a fight, different weapons specifically. You know, some enemies don't have a lot of armor, so you want weapons like cleavers that do really good against just their flesh. And then some enemies have tons of armor, like orcs are just walking piles of iron, it feels like. So you want weapons that can punch through armor very quickly, like bill hooks, pole hammers, war picks, stuff like that. But because of that, even though all of that is pretty well balanced and fun, There are some things that honestly kind of suck, like bows. There are some good bows out there. I'm not saying bow users are, just unusable, but bows are definitely weaker compared to things like throwers if you want range damage, or just, making another guy that is either a backline melee attacker, they have a reach weapon and they melee stuff, or just, making something else. Some of the enemy abilities are kind of BS though, like the attack ranges on stuff. There's a lot of math that gets rolled behind the scenes, so it's not, insurmountable and not completely unfair. It just kind of sucks when you're up against it, like Hexen. So Hexen like to charm your units or hex them, where if you hit them, that unit takes damage. And there are still ways to play around this, obviously, but even then, it's just not the most enjoyable, because you see Hexen, charming your dudes from 8 spaces away sometimes, and if you don't position correctly, it's really hard to maneuver around them and stuff, or if you can't stun them. So all that is annoying. It's just really annoying to fight against and trudge through, but it's not unbeatable. Just avoid it if you really don't want to deal with it. And then the final thing I dislike is that pretty much every single build in the game needs accuracy. I really, just as a person, I don't like accuracy in games. I understand why it exists. I understand why you need it, stuff like that, but I don't like interacting with it, because I usually feel it's a tax in terms of gear, skills, and all that, because you have to try and overcome the accuracy deficit, because the best way to win in turn-based games is to have efficient turns. Missing your attacks is the least efficient thing you can do besides, getting stunned. So even getting stunned in this game is probably better than missing 2 attacks, like with your weapon when you swing on them, because you don't spend fatigue. I don't know. I have to double check the mechanics and, fatigue buildup and recovery and stuff, but yeah, so everything needs accuracy, which kind of sucks. And, that means that pretty much for most characters' level ups, they take accuracy and then 2 other things, usually defense, to lower the enemy's accuracy. But otherwise, this game's amazing. I'm putting a lot of time into it. I might stream it at some point and have some kind of meme run, but honestly, I'm addicted. I'm really excited to see Menace, which is, I think Overhyped Studios is their name, their next game. I don't know much about it yet, but yeah. If you like roguelike strategy games that are brutally difficult, tactical, and stuff like that, get Battle Brothers. No hashtag ad. Just love this game, and if you like these types of games, I think you'll like it too. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.